Good afternoon, everyone. It's my absolute pleasure to welcome you all to today's webinar. Construction Week presents Managing Complexity, Compliance, and End-to-End Traceability of Rail and Metro Requirement Specifications, powered by IBM and MicroGenesis. We are delighted to see the response and excitement for this webinar. I thank you all for taking time out for being a part of this webinar today. My name is Indrajit Sahuji. I head the construction and design vertical for ITP in India, and I'll be your host for today. I hope the audio and video are clear. If any issues with the communication, do let us know through the chat box so that our technical support can sort it out soon for you. Let me start with a brief introduction about ITP. ITP Media Group is one of the largest foreign media companies in India. The group is headquartered out of Dubai and now publishes more than 100 weekly and monthly magazines and has a wide portfolio of market-leading digital and event properties. Some of our well-known global titles includes magazines like Harper's Bazaar, Vogue, Time Out, Cosmopolitan, Grazia, Construction Week, Hotelier India, Architect and Interiors India, and more similar prominent titles across industry verticals. In India, we have 7 titles including Construction Week. Construction Week is one of our largest circulated construction magazines globally with presence across geographies. We have editions in English, Arabic, and recently we have launched our Hindi edition to cater to larger Hindi-loving audience in India. Coming back to the webinar topic, Construction Week presents Managing Complexity, Compliance, and End-to-End Traceability of Rail and Metro Requirement Specifications, powered by IBM and MicroGenesis. The Indian government is undertaking several initiatives to upgrade its aging railway infrastructure and enhance its quality of services. The Railway Ministry has announced plan to invest 50 lakh crores to upgrade the railway by 2030. Upgrades include 100% electrification of railways, upgradation of existing lines with more facilities and higher speed, expansion of new lines, upgradation of railway stations, introducing and eventually developing large high-speed and semi-high-speed train networks interconnecting major cities and different parts of India, and development of various dedicated freight corridors to cut down cargo costs within the country. India has also emerged as the fastest growing market for metro rail systems. Currently, 10 plus cities have an operational urban rail network spanning 536 kilometers. In the last 13 years, new metro projects with a total length of around 248 kilometers have been approved for implementation. Further, about 750 plus kilometers of rail network is under planning in various cities. When we are building at this pace, we definitely need technology to help us to achieve this. The emphasis of embracing new technology and digital solutions has never been much greater, and it may help us to speed up implementation. Keeping this in mind and considering the number of rail-related projects coming up in the country and adhering with the dream of digital India, today we are going to discuss and debate what are some of the challenges we face while implementing these projects manually and how digitization and technology can help overcome all these challenges, speed up projects while maintaining quality, standards, and budget. Unfortunately, we have amongst us the brightest minds in the industry to guide us on this today. We want this session to be interactive and engaging, and we look forward to learn from our audience as well. In case if you have any questions during this course of the session, please feel free to ask them by using the question tab. The Q&A session towards the end of the segment where these questions will be answered. Please mention which speaker are these questions addressed to. My team and I am looking forward to the questions and will try to answer as many as possible. Without any further delay, let me introduce our presenting partner, MicroGenesis and IBM, whose technology is powering several rail-related projects across the globe. Thank you, MicroGenesis and IBM, for partnering with us and helping us to put together this forum. Now, let me quickly introduce today's moderator, Mr. Dhananjaya. Mr. Dhananjaya is VP Technical Services MicroGenesis TechSoft Private Limited. With more than 25 years of experience, he is the authority on the subject. Over to you, Dhananjaya.
Yeah, thank you very much, Indrajit, and we are very excited about this particular webinar. And I think you gave a very good introduction and a foundation to this particular webinar. And welcome all the audience once again, and my global, panelist and a special speaker from NHSR, Mr. Achal Khare. Thank you very much for joining us in this event today. So this is the event. I will be your moderator, and then this is the agenda that we have for today's meeting. That means we just done with the introduction. We shall have the keynote session in a bit. And then we will talk about a case study, a successful implementation of a requirements management system in some of the international projects that we would like to, probably use that in some of the metro and rail projects that we are going to come up in India, and also have an exciting roundtable, to discuss on some of the challenges and digitization initiatives and benefits by adopting some latest technologies. And some of the key leaders are there on the panel today to discuss on that. And we do have Mr. Iran presenting the solution for rail projects, basically how we can effectively manage complexity, compliance, and end-to-end traceability of your requirement specifications among rail agencies plus contractors and consultants. So that's one of the exciting story that we will have, and followed by a quick demo of a solution as to how it can be adopted to manage this complexity and end-to-end traceability. And followed by, we have a question and answer session as well. Right. So, and without further delay, so I'd like to invite on to our next presenter, Mr. Achal Khare. So I'm very excited to have Mr. Ajay Khare in our forum today. Mr. Achal Khare is graduated in civil engineering from University of Roorkee. Now it's called IIT Roorkee. He joined in railways as IRSC of 1982 batch, and he's currently heading one of the prestigious project, which is the high-speed railways, as a managing director for National High Speed Railway Corporation Limited. Mr. Achal Khare, over to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dhananjaya.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for providing this platform to share some of the glimpses of the project and some of the complexities. I'll straight go to my presentation. So initially, a brief about the project. It's a 508-kilometer long project with mostly on viaduct, 460-kilometer viaduct. And there is a unique feature of 121-kilometer long tunnel. I think, let me take the pointer. Okay, so 21-kilometer long tunnel, out of which about 7 kilometers is under the sea. There are 12 stations, all elevated except one in Mumbai, which is underground. And the total travel time is going to be 2 hours 7 minutes for limited stop and 2 hours 58 minutes for all stops. Operating speed is going to be 320 kilometers per hour. Now, to begin with, you are seeing the original plan was 23, but 23, because of many things, out of this one major issue is COVID. Land acquisition is another issue. So 23 commissioning would not be possible. We are working out what can be done by 23 or 24. But to begin with, we will have train sets, 24 numbers, each with 10 coaches configuration. There will be 35 trips each way, starting from 6 o'clock in the morning to 12 o'clock in the night. We expect each way about 18,000 people to travel every day. We are going to get 3 trains per hour, which means a frequency of 20 minutes in the peak hour, and off peak hour 30 minutes. Train acceleration from starting to 320 kilometers, it will take 310 seconds and about a distance of 18 kilometers to achieve 320 kilometers per hour. Braking distance normal, it will take about 167 seconds, but in emergency, it will take about 78 seconds to stop. There will be 3 types of classes. One is standard class, then business class, and grand class. What has been decided from general public perspective is that our standard class fare will be around 1.5 times the AC first fare. These are some highlights of key technologies. One is the controlling sound pressure wave, tunnel boom effect. It's a subject in itself. I'll not be able to take much time, devote much time on this. Then improved bogies technology, which means it has it's a pressurized car body. It has double skin hollow aluminum car body to mitigate noise. We have improved pantograph, reduction in air drag, and special lurch control. And there is a full-fledged driver support system. Continuous automatic train control system. It has a digital audio frequency track circuit, track to train transmission. Then there is a fallback system. It fails. A unique feature, those who have railway background, it will have cable gas pressure monitoring system, which means any cable developing any kind of crack or something, we will get a alert beforehand, because the gas leak will take place, and before the failure occurs, you can replace the cable. Heavy duty point machine with swing nose. Electrical also is a heavy compound catenary and automatic switched neutral section. Now, all these are subjects in themselves pertaining to complex technology, but then time doesn't permit me to talk about all this in detail. I will cover a little bit on disaster management system, because this is again new to India as far as railway system is concerned. So the four typical types of natural calamities which can happen is earthquake, high temperatures or low temperatures, high wind, and rains. So for earthquake, we are putting 22 seismometer along the track and 6 in vulnerable seismic zone like Koina and Bhuj area. So I will draw your attention where my pointer is. The concept is from the epicenter. You see, earthquake is comprising of 2 types of waves, primary wave and secondary wave. And the principle is, as soon as the earthquake occurs at the epicenter, the seismometer installed at, say, Koina or Bhuj or Latur, these are the 3 areas where we are putting, it will sense the primary wave and immediately send the signal to the substation controlling the power of high speed. And as soon as primary wave signal are received, sent by seismometer to substation, seismometer, the power will switch off. Idea is, power should switch off by the time secondary wave reach this area, because all we know is it is the secondary wave which caused the damage, not the primary wave. So that's the principle. And as we know, this is based on Japanese technology. So Japan faces a lot of earthquakes. That is how this thing has come up in Japan, and now we are getting in India. Rail temperature will be providing this kind of rail tensors on my left side diagram. Then wind pressure, in case the wind velocity increases more than 108 km per hour, automatically the signals will go and train operations will stop. We are also installing rain gauges at 6 vulnerable locations near the bridges, though this is really not an issue, but this as a disaster management complete package we are getting with the project. I showed some of the key designs. So key designs by way of pictures, I would just try to show how noise is being controlled, how airtight body and pressurized cabins are being made. So if you see, this is a high-speed train. So all the gaps where air can entrap have been covered by fairings, and they have provided very smooth surface to reduce the air drag as well as to reduce the noise. Another measure is, kindly see this picture. This is a double skin hollow extrusion lighter car body aluminum shell. So there is a gap between 2 skins, 50 mm, 2 inches, which creates a lot of noise insulation. Then the areas which can create noise have been identified and they have been tried to be insulated. If you see, the bogies have been covered. You see here, the bogies have been covered. Fairings have been provided between the 2 coaches, and also the pantograph, which creates, by rubbing on the wire, it creates noise. So it has also been covered through this insulation panel. Automatic seat rotation, which now it has been provided in Vande Bharat also. And this is something unique. On curves, you feel lurch. So it's a active suspension system which has been provided. If the train is going to negotiate a curve, it will detect the vibration and then it will send a signal to sensor. Sensor will activate this cylinder. The cylinder will open on the opposite side from where the lurch is coming, so that the car body doesn't move and you don't feel the lurch. I'm sorry, I'm trying to be a bit fast because of the time constraint. So coming to the current topic with that kind of brief for the project, managing complexity, if you see the total package, even though we went for very big, very large packages, still they are coming out to be 25 in numbers. Total project cost is around 1,08,000 crore. So streamlining project management process using integrated project control is very, very important. Document management solutions are very, very important. So I'll just try to take you through a glimpse of these items, what we are trying to do to manage project complexity of such a large volume project. If you see our stakeholders, in Japan, we have Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Tourism, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, because they are providing us the loan. And then they have a lending agency called JICA, Japan International Corporation. Then on the technical side, we have a operator, JR East. Then there is a consultant, which is JIC. On Ministry of, in India, on Ministry of Railway side, we have our administrative ministry, Railways. Then uniquely on this project, Prime Minister Office has nominated Niti Aayog as one of the coordinator, and Niti Aayog along with one representative from government of Japan are given the responsibility of monitoring this project. And with all these, we interact as National High Speed Rail Corporation. We will have two consultants, PMC Civil, Project Management Consultant, and PMC Civil system, and then all those packages which we showed. And then we have this integrated testing and commissioning. And then we have project management integrated solution to manage all this. You can imagine all the correspondence and coordination work, the kind of volume which we are going to have. So these are the key drivers to achieve the project success. Number one is standardized business processes. This is how we are trying to approach to establish a strong governance. Cost forecasting and budget control. Nearly real-time reporting and centralized project dashboard. Integrated view of master plan. You should know the complete project in one place. And an integrated solution for seamless data management. Data management is something which is the most important part of this project. Another part was the target which were given to us to quickly start. So we were supposed to do survey quickly. Normally with conventional method, it would have taken about a year. So we went for at least in railways areas, first time we went for a new technology of aerial lidar survey. I'm happy to say that it has been very, very successful. And now we have at least 3 to 4 companies in India who can do this survey. More details you can discuss separately with my people. Land acquisition is another complex subject, and in linear project, it becomes complex. I'm trying to take few complexities, not all. So what we were dealing was, we were to acquire around 1,400 hectare of land in 2 states and 1 union territory, but it involved 11 districts, 297 villages, and interaction with almost 8,500 private stakeholders. Other than government, 8,500 private stakeholders. So we went for a digital solution. If you see, this is just a snapshot. All green area, and you see the boundaries. Now these are the plots, individual plots. So we went for a software development, and I am happy to share that one startup fellow in Vadodara, he has done it for us. So now, as soon as the plot is acquired, the entire information, you click on the plot, you will have entire information that who is the owner, what is his bank detail, what amount has been paid, how this amount has been calculated. So everything is brought on this platform. Project monitoring is now we have awarded the work in Gujarat. Out of 351 kilometer, 325 kilometer work has already been awarded. So planning and scheduling is one of the most important pillar, resource management and progress capture, and of course the risk management. These are the typical diagrams. They may vary based on project to project. The idea is to take it to mobile-based app so that people at site can upload everything on real-time basis. So we need to have, and we have in fact almost 80%, we have created a unified platform. Some more work is required to be done. So in between, in the center, there is NHSRCL. We have project management consultant. We have package contractor. Within NHSRCL, we have corporate office and we have chief project manager office. We have 5 such locations, CPM's office. So I think for the first time, we are trying to bring all of them on one single platform. So even the contractor, if he is to upload his information, his request, his drawing, everything, he will be uploading on this platform directly. And then it will be visible to the concerned people. And his queries, his approvals, everything will be replied on this platform itself. So that is what basic idea of unified platform is. Now, just to give you a brief, what kind of items would be there on this platform? Those who are construction engineers will very well understand what does this mean, request for inspection. So it will manage notice to proceed, RFIs, submittals, processes like material approval, maintain safety logs, incident report, daily progress reporting, coordinate with external parties, enforce compliance to daily, weekly, and monthly reporting schedule, and control project closeout process with punch list, closeout checklist, and handover documents. So it will have daily progress, weekly progress, notice of material approval also, corrective action requests, quality control. So all those things will be available. It will also have planned submittals, resource mobilization, and it will give you the analysis of actuals, what have been submitted, and what has been the resource mobilization based on planned and actual. Then we will have a dashboard with which we will know that what is the performance, where are we, whether we are ahead or we are behind the schedule. This is just for pictorial depiction purpose, that what it used to be project management, professional project management, and what we are trying to do in modern PPM. So classic PPM, most of the projects earlier also we have done through this classic PPM way. One day we have taken, just for explanation purpose, 5 days, Monday to Friday. So Monday you collect data. Tuesday also you collect data. Wednesday, 1 day means 2 days you will require to collect data. Then third day you will maintain your spreadsheet. Fourth day you will maintain and develop reports. And then on the last day you will be able to do some analysis. You will get the complete progress report, and then you will do the analysis to see whether you are ahead or behind on what is need to be done. With this unified approach, what we are trying to do is a automated data collection. You don't need anybody to collect the data. It will be done automatically by the person at site. So you get real-time progress, you get real-time task scope updates, and then exception-based action you can decide. You have enough time to do all this analysis, and then you can do interaction, and the decision makers can take the decisions and then take a strategic initiative. So that is where the difference in modern professional project management lies with the classic project management. Just one sample. This is one sample dashboard of document control, which has been fully implemented. So we know how many documents have been received, how many documents have been closed, how many, this is a typical on one day. So 308 documents are still pending. You get this position, and then further, if you go drop down, you will get individual letter from where you received, what letters have not been replied, with whom it is pending, why it is pending. So everything in this you will be able to see, and this is fully implemented. I think this is the last slide showing one of the photographs of the construction site of C4, which we have already started. We have done few foundations already. So that is all. I think in a limited time, I could show it to you. I know this is just a brief overview. Thank you very much, Mr. Dhananjaya. I am sorry, I have to leave. So in case there is any question, I would like to take it now.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. And I'm personally very thankful to you because it's such an exciting, prestigious project that you're actually running. And I'm hats off to you. And yes, there are a couple of questions. So one of the questions that has come up is how the technology of high speed is planned for proliferation in India. Do you foresee some, this is just an initial kickoff, but then how is the proliferation expected in India?
Yeah, that's a very good question. You see, as far as high speed is concerned, we have absolutely no idea. So again, I will try to be brief. Otherwise, it's a question on which you can talk for hours. So what we are trying to do is civil works. Initially itself, we had thought that Indians can do. So civil works were allocated to Indians, except some of the civil works which are complicated. And I would list out one is the tunnel. As you saw, it is undersea tunnel has not been done. That's and right. Then steel fabrication. My Japanese colleagues had a lot of apprehension that steel fabrication quality, what is required for high speed, Indians will not be able to do. With a lot of persuasion over last 2-3 years, we took them to various factories. We showed them the quality and also assured them and also listed out various measures which we will take to upgrade the quality. And I am happy to share that these items like tunnel as well as the steel fabrication are also now open to Indian companies with a lot of measures contemplated in the tender document that what will be done. They will bring international experts. They will depute welders only after they are qualified by these experts. So all those conditions have been put, but Indians will be exposed to high steel bridge fabrication. Indian company will do. Sure. Then one more thing which I wanted to share, track is something unique. It's a ballastless track, unique technology, and Japanese have agreed to even this track work to be done by Indians with the condition that we are developing very elaborate arrangement at Surat for the training of contractor personals. About 800 contractor personnel will be trained at Surat by Japanese experts. They will certify them and only certified people will be put on the job. So a very elaborate arrangement have been done. And today morning itself, I had the pre-bid meeting for the track. So this arrangement have been done. So you see about 800 people, trained people after this project is done will be available to work in India or abroad. So same way we have taken other items also like electrical, lot of items have been taken for Make in India purpose. So there is a complete list on our website. As I said, it will take a lot of time for me just to give you an idea. So this item is very much as in the core of the project that we have to do many things, whatever we can do as Make in India in Atmanirbhar Bharat.
Wonderful, sir. Wonderful. I think more and more excited I am with all this, information that you are sharing. In fact, so many questions are pouring in, but I'll just limit to just one or two more questions. I think this will be one-liner question, I would say. When is there a plan for, manufacturing these high-speed trains, coaches in India as part of Atmanirbhar Bharat?
You see, there are, as I told, we are going to procure 24 train sets.
Okay.
And let me share with you the few items which I showed you, double skin shell and all these things. These parts are currently not manufactured in India. Okay. None of these parts are manufactured in India. And you will need economy of scale for anybody to start this. Okay. Nevertheless, we have discussed with our Japanese partner, out of 24, 6 will be done in India. Whatever parts can be done in India will be taken in India. Otherwise, we'll bring the things from Japan and assemble everything here. But there is going to be an Indian partner associating with the Japanese people to do these 6 train sets here in India.
Great, sir. Thank you very much. And last question. So what's the capacity of each coach or a complete train?
This will be, a complete train will be around 750. It will go down a bit because we Indians carry a lot of luggage. So this we realized a little bit later. So maybe 750 will be reduced to 710 or 720 to create some capacity for the luggage.
Thank you very much, sir. Many questions are there, but we will try to get them answered offline in the interest of time.
Yeah, you can. I will be more than willing if you can send me through email. I can respond to them through email, all the questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. And I think, I just like to quickly summarize. I know the complexity of this project is quite intensified, and I think you are on the right direction of adopting the latest digitization technology, bringing in transformational, innovative technologies and platforms to basically improve collaboration, real-time dashboarding, project tracking. These are some things that are need of the day today for any of the projects. Thank you once again for all the information that you have shared. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Dhananjaya. Thank you. And I'm sorry I'm not able to continue with the session.
No problem, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So thanking Mr. Achal Khare. So we will carry on with the next topic. So we have Mr. Andreas Goshwin, who's the solution engineer from IBM. His specialty is basically to basically work with a lot of transportation clients and implementing some of the solution that Mr. Achal Khare was talking about in project monitoring plus requirements management, enabling collaboration. So he has done some of the great work with some of the international clients. So he is here with us today to share his part of the case study today. Andreas, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Dhananjaya. So I have a very similar story, just as a case study to introduce what we do with IBM products. And it's the California high-speed railway. Pictures look very similar to what you are doing in India, right? So we have, the California high-speed railway is in two phases. The first phase is between San Francisco and Los Angeles, some 600 kilometers. The total thing will be from Sacramento all the way down to San Diego, some 1,300 kilometers. Similar, 350 kilometers per hour the train is going to drive. What they're doing is, analyzing the whole plan, identifying major structures, streets they have to rebuild, and all these things. And they put them into these contracting packages, just as Mr. Khare was explaining. And it's maybe a little bit of an agile approach, you could say, and have contracting packages. And so WSP is the main contractor there. So here you see again, San Francisco to LA, and then from Sacramento down all the way to San Diego. Very similar view of things, major structures identified. And each one of these major structures, as Mr. Khare said, you need contracts and designs and requirements, and so that's what this quick discussion is about, how you can manage those. So what this the main contractor WSP is doing, well, they've got the engineers who do all the planning. And once the planning is done, you give away that work, of course, into civil works and tracks and systems and the actual train set. And then once that is all delivered, you integrate it and confirm that it does what it's supposed to do from the requirements. So drilling down one level deeper, you have all these requirements from the early design phase, the system requirements and analysis, and how you want to divide them up. And then you divide them into the design, the bids, the builds, and the phases. And all this are additional requirements. So high level, yes, you can say it's supposed to traverse that highway. How do you do that? It goes down into the system requirements, goes deeper and deeper. And you need to keep track of that, as Mr. Khare said. So maybe the difference between the Indian approach and the California high-speed railway is we look at things not only as documents, but what's in the documents. Each individual requirement is tracked. And so you can track a high-level requirement all the way to the finished system in the end, right? And so you see how that could work. So you have your phases of your projects, and in the end, documents because that's what governments like. So here's the evidence, and you've tested it, and so you can test every single trail through the system, saying yes, we've done what we said we would do, right? And so the system we're using is called DOORS, and Iran and Sunil will talk about that a little bit more. But you can see sort of a hierarchy of, I'd say this has at least 30 levels of hierarchy in there, where you have sort of design documents, contract documents. It goes into various types of aerial requirements, trench requirements, roadway requirements, and so on. Goes down deeper, deeper. And so you can still track that. And again, the same idea is you want to have a view of where are we. So from this one requirements management system indoors, it's a single source of truth. Every requirement, every piece of text is in this DOORS system, and so you can trace it. And whatever you need to report on, you press a button and the report comes out automatically. And so it's that real-time report that Mr. Khare was talking about, right? And so you know, there's just like in India, there is hundreds of contractors working with it. It is a complex system. From a system engineering point of view, that's what we're doing, is making sure that all the requirements trace, and that we have verification. And that we have, you know, the quality assurance in the end. That's what the system does. And so, from my point of view, having a system like I'm talking about, you have one source of truth with all the requirements for everything in there. Requirement framework, the collaboration between all those suppliers is guaranteed. You have verification built in that whatever you've designed in the beginning is traceable and meets the requirements, and you manage risk and hazard management. So that's very quick, very similar to the Indian high-speed railway implementation. Same thing is being done in California.
Yeah, thank you, Andreas. I think that was a very insightful information how some of these international projects are basically, you know, using a platform, a centralized platform, to enable not only manage requirements, also to link an end-to-end traceable artifacts, right from you know, specification, initial specification to complete implementation, verification, validation, risk management, hazard management, and complete dashboard or real-time dashboard. So it's great to know that how some of these concepts have been already tested and tried. I hope India will be adopting some of these technology already. You know, something is started in high-speed railways. I think a couple of metro projects are already using some of these solutions, and I feel I'm excited about this technology. Thank you very much for covering some of the international story. Thank you, Andreas, once again. Okay, good. So we will quickly move on to the next topic, which is an exciting panel discussion that we are going to have. So I'm very excited about this panel discussion today. We have eminent speaker coming in from different companies, including the rail agencies, plus also construction companies, and also consultant companies. And so I'd like to just take a couple of minutes to just introduce this panel, and before we start asking a question. So the first panelist is Mr. Gaurav Agarwal, who's the director at Rail Board, which is Indian Railways, prestigious Indian Railways. And Gaurav is basically a civil servant in Indian Railways with over 25 years of experience in the domains and functions of operation, maintenance, manufacturing, research, and corporate coordination. Mr. Gaurav, welcome on board, and thank you very much for taking out your time. So the next speaker that we have is Mr. Ramanathan, and who's the director at AECOM. And so Ramanathan is basically trained in AECOM Hong Kong office for over 2 decades, and he's got a lot of experience with rail and metro projects. And currently, he's overseeing the Chennai Metro Rail Phase 2 work. And Mr. Ramanathan, thank you very much for joining and sharing your consultant viewpoint for this particular panel. And the next speaker that we have is Dipayan Saha, who's the Assistant Vice President Projects at Tata Projects. And he's got several years of experience in the rail projects and metro projects, and he will be representing the contractor's viewpoint for for this particular panel. And Mr. Dipayan and Saha, welcome once again for this particular panel. The next eminent speaker, of course, Dipayan Saha is also, worked on Lucknow project, Pune project, besides the other metro projects that he has worked on. And next speaker is Mr. Pradeep Ahirkar, who's the Chief Project Manager, again from National High Speed Railway Corporation Limited, who comes with, hoping 18 years of experience on this particular, vertical. And we are excited to have him as well. Thank you, Mr. Pradeep, for making your time available. And we have our next speaker, last but not least, is Mohan Tiwari, who's the president of strategic initiatives at Dilip Wilcom Limited. And he comes with more than 40 years of professional experience in covering various spectrum of infrastructure projects, including rail and metro projects. And I'm really, really excited to be part of this particular, panel. And so let's start off with the, question for this particular panel. And thank you once again for everybody. And just kindly switch on your camera if possible for you, all of you. Yeah. I'll just stop sharing. Okay. So, and I would request all the panels to turn on your videos if possible. Yeah. Okay. So my first question to Mr. Gaurav Agarwal, and he represents the prestigious Indian Railways. Sir, from your perspective, what challenges do you see in rail industry in relation to driving some of the transformational initiatives? Meaning Indian Railways is going through revolutionary change and trying to bring in a lot of digitization. So can you throw some light on that?
Thank you, Dhananjaya. The challenges towards driving transformation initiatives are many. But if you see from the Indian Railways perspective, the biggest challenge is the misalignment between the goals and the steps and strategies deployed to achieve the same. At times, the goal appears to be achieving certain level of profitability, which usually gets inspired from train operations in the western part of the world, private airlines, or the taxis and the private buses in the road sector. But at that time, we keep aside the cost for operating the non-commercially profitable services in the remote geographical terrains of the country, as well as support to various socio-economic groups, such as senior citizens, students, medical handicapped people, or maybe decent employment well above the market rate to a large workforce. The conflict between these two schools of goal setting sometimes diverts from focusing away from the focusing on the transformation initiative. So what should be the goal? On one front, we say that profitability has to be the goal, see the Western world, see these sectors. On the other hand, being the controlled by the ministry, there is a very big social obligation the Indian Railways has to carry. Secondly, there is a need to redefine within the Indian Railways the new organizational structure, enabling the railways to improve the efficiency and customer focus of its services, as well as to improve the corporate governance structure. What I mean to say that at present, the structure is somehow defined on departmental lines, or the people are working in silos. It has to be, their time has come now to restructure the organization on the business lines. This would entail migration from the existing expenditure-driven or the department-driven organization toward a structure focusing on the primary goals, which is basically the one sector can be the long-distance passenger trains. Secondly, it can be short-distance passenger trains, or thirdly, the freight segment.
Understand.
These challenges are there. The redefinement of the, firstly, the goal setting, and secondly, the redesigning the organizational structure.
Yeah, thank you very much for this good answer, Mr. Agarwal. I think it's more about redefining the goals and redefining the organization structure so that it comes as break that silo so that information can flow fluently or easily and transparently, And in fact, some of the digitization technologies enable to make this practical. Thank you. I'll come back to you for another question shortly. And my next question is to Mr. Pradeep Ahirkar. Sir, you've been working with HSR for some time now. What do you think is the challenge? Because it's a very complex project and first of its kind of project in India. What do you think are some of the challenges related to managing specifications related to the high-speed railways?
Thank you. We are designing this high-speed railway for a very high speed. So specifications are very stringent. Means the tolerances are very strict as far as the schedule of dimensions are concerned. So we are going ahead with all top of things like for example, if we talk of geo-investigation, then we are going with only semi-automatic geo-investigation machines. Earlier we used to do with this boring type of machines. Now we are not allowing that. We are working with only semi-automatic rigs. Then we are using the highest precision surveying equipment. Then in concreting also we are checking the standard deviations of the strength of the concrete. Then we are taking the method statement for whatever contractor is supposed to do. He has to submit everything. Then second part is training. So we are focusing on the training of not only on NHSRCL personnel but also the contractors personnel. So we are focusing on that also. So we have to maintain the strict compliance of all those things.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Pradeep Ahirkar. A couple of points that you mentioned is basically there are new technologies and first of its kind that you're trying to do with high-speed railways. And compliance management is one of the important things that needs to be addressed. And there are specifications and we need to maintain, are we compliant to those specifications? Whether you do it manually or through a centralized system to manage those specifications is a key. And thank you for sharing that information. I think, Iran is wanting to cover some of the topics that you mentioned today in his presentation. So my next question, I will go to Mr. Ramanathan. Mr. Ramanathan, what have been the biggest barriers to seeing these innovation projects succeed? You've been representing the consultant viewpoint. So what do you think some of the challenges that you see in this innovative projects? Mr. Ramanathan, you're on mute, Mr. Ramanathan. Okay.
I'm good.
Okay, no, please go ahead.
So I think the metro industry has taken off for about more than 2 decades. It has been functioning in India. But with respect to innovative ideas, there are still a lot of loose ends which we could tie. I think one of the issues is once it all started with the design and build concept. That is, the builder will be designing and he'll be building it and his designs will be checked or approved. So this was, I was trained in Hong Kong and 4 decades ago, that is how it all started. But what happened in design and build more than innovation, since the financial management is also with the builder or the contractor. So they are not, there was not much room for innovation. They were looking for doing it at an optimal or a minimum cost. So later, the idea of the construction only contract started. So that the traditional way is you give some reference drawings and some bill of quantities, and during the currency of the project, all these drawings will be released. So this is the traditional way, and this is also not giving much room for innovation. So the one which I think could work is still the construction only contract or build only contract, but the client has to take a big role in the design part as well. So currently in many cities in India, they are doing a sort of hybrid, half of design and build and half of engineers design and all that. That is also becoming a sort of molded or system-made stuff. Instead, each project, each site is different. So we have to invite innovative ideas, means it's the client who can do it. So he can decide that he can spend more money, or it is worth or not worth. So the detailed design consultants are to be employed by the client, encourage the innovative ideas, employ competent people to design it, have brainstorming sessions, detailed discussions, give more time for planning. So now what is happening in India is we give very less time for planning, and so now immediately the project is launched. And again, you have a very tight time schedule, which none of the builders are able to match. So they are in a big hurry to complete the project. So the innovative ideas are not coming up. If you give some more time for planning, employ a detailed design consultant to do this detailed design, and then go for building construction, I think that will help to have more innovative ideas coming through.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ramathan, talking about the importance of design only or build only, a collaborative way of approaching this for any innovative concept to take some shape. I think India is in that direction currently now, in the sense it has to start with all the technologies that are coming from abroad. Thank you very much for sharing your viewpoint there. So my next question is to Mr. Dipayan Saha. So now you have heard the story of a rail body point of view and a consultant point of view, and from a contractor point of view, Mr. Dipayan, how do you manage this collaboration between consultant, contractors, and various stakeholders? And do you see any challenges here?
Hi, Dhananjaya. Is a nice platform to talk about this aspect. As a contractor, we secure the contract from the esteemed client, and we have been given a task in a given time, and with the safety and quality we have to implement the project. So when we do a job as a EPC contractor on a design and build mode, we have first we say it's a collaboration. It's a common goal basically. Would be a common goal that commissioning of the metro on a target date with a given quality and safety. To achieve this, we have the many external and internal authorities, including the local civic authorities, and we put into them into sequence, and we find that a contract is one-sided with the detailed specification borrowed even from the international specification, contractors from the Indian market, and the state stakeholders are at the different platform. So aligning all these into the same line is a bit challenges, but as we keep the common goal that we have to implement on time, we have put the design part. First is the design, then we have to build. So if we see the design part, we have a process. We get the tender drawing, then the preliminary design, definitive design, construction CRD stage, and the final stage of the drawing for the implementation. So there are a lot of interfaces with the system contractor, which is put into place. But there are, in the drawing, there may be the amendment, there are the revisions, it will happen. But these challenges taken in a positive way so that the rework is minimized. Only part is challenges if the general consent and the client is equally put into the same platform of the contractor, the time lapse is optimized. Okay. If approval process is reduced, because we have to go to the many entity for the approval, starting from the local authority, from the utility, from the environmental clearance, from the forest authority, and the design approval internal. So wherever possible, if the time lapses are reduced, so project can take off in the right spirit. And because contract of is well spelled, there's hardly any room to deviate. and ultimately giving a good delivery quality and safety is the appreciation from at all levels. We honor the contract and deliver at the right spirit.
Thank you, Mr. Dipayan. I think you covered a very important point, an importance of collaborating with various stakeholders and contractors, consultants, including the rail body. And you have to, even collaborate with many of the outside stakeholders, such as the environment department, forest department, and many other things. And again, time and again, it reminds me of our topic of, how you can reduce this time by bringing in some collaboration platform. It could be a public platform, or it could be a rail body specific platform. I think that's the essence of this particular webinar as well. And thank you so much for sharing your viewpoint there. So my next question is to Mr. Tiwari, Mohan Tiwari. So now looking at all these challenges, what do you think is the one piece of advice that you may want to give it to, let's say, chief rail information managers or officers or CIOs who are watching this webinar?
Thank you, Dhananjaya. I think one of the speakers already mentioned earlier about the mission and vision of the organization and how everything has to be directed towards that. But I would say for any CIO to think of, what in the early 90s, there used to be a book called Learning Organization by Peter Senge.
Yeah.
It talks about fifth discipline. And fifth discipline was systems thinking, which we call holistic approach. Now, what he is required to do is that he has to get into the various functional heads requirement across the organization or the various business lines across the organization, understand their requirement and develop a collaborative system addressed to their need.
Sir.
Yeah, go ahead. Please go ahead.
Yes. And it's like cross-silo expertise, which he has to attain. The problem what we are having today is that because of the complexity of the projects, you have a project which requires a different kind of a set of systems and the set of processes there, and set of, say, it could be a GIS web-based platform which is required there. You may have a system in the viaduct or for the bridges are different systems. So no system fits to all the construction requirement of any organization. Most of the organizations today, they have a multiplicity of the verticals, multiplicity of the business lines. And now to have a system and with a specialization system. And nowadays what is happening, that earlier conventional method of contracting was you have a client and you have a contractor and that's the end of the story.
Yeah.
Right? Now you have so many clients. You have so many agencies which are monitoring your performance. You have so many people who are questioning you. And then all these people to be brought into on one platform has to be done by understanding the requirement of each of the stakeholders, because they must understand what they are getting from it. Yeah. Does it make any business sense to have that kind of a platform for him? What it is giving to him? That is a crux. That if each of the stakeholders start thinking, yes, he's getting benefited by this system, then he will definitely adopt it. But if somebody thinks it's only creating his problems, it's only increasing his data to be input, and he's in return, he's not getting any benefit out of it, then there'll be a reluctance and there'll be a problem in the implementation of those systems.
Good. I think you covered that point very well, Mr. Mohan Tiwari. In fact, the importance of having cross-functional teams connected together on a common platform, which the chief information officer or rail information officer gets benefited. Apart from that, all the stakeholders do get benefited, but the importance is it should not add a burden, but it would actually be a benefit for those people with that system. And thank you so much for having that. So we are running short of time. I just have one or two questions, so probably ask. So I'd like to ask Mr. Gaurav Agarwal once again, if, maybe a 30-second timeline you may have is basically couple of digitization or digital initiatives that you're taking in Indian Railways. Can you just highlight in about 30 seconds, Mr. Gaurav?
One of the new initiative being undertaken in Indian Railways recently is development of smart yard.
Okay.
Basically, it is switch over from the traditional routine maintenance system to the predictive based maintenance system. So basically in this case, we will have sensors or other equipments placed on the rolling stock itself or on the roadsides, so that when the train is passing through a certain point or it is entering the yard, it can able to sense the conditions of the various equipments. For example, the temperature of the bearings, or the in case of any hanging part, or some abnormal noise from the wheels. So there are equipments. We are trying to find solutions from within the country, whatever possible in the Make in India mission, whatever is possible. So the tendering is under process these days. So whatever is possible from the Indian manufacturers will do from India. Rest will be from the international players. So it will, on one hand, it will improve the safety. On the other hand, it will save manpower, and it will be save the maintenance time. Since the behavior of most of the equipments will be available before the train enters, so only those equipments will need to be attended more cautiously where you have some indications of the troubles. This is one of the initiative being undertaken apart from the other routine initiatives in the area of passengers, like mapping the train from the GPRS or satellite, which has already been implemented. So Smart Yard is one such initiative.
Thank you so much. I think it's need of the hour, by the way. I think Indian Railways is thinking in the right direction. Thank you so much for your viewpoint, and that's a big initiative, I would say. Okay, next question is basically to Mr. Pradeep. Mr. Pradeep, if you have to say, what is the impact? I know HSR has got complex requirement, and what is the, is it costing too much for you because of a quality of requirement, not clearly defined quality of requirement, or let me put it this way, a conflicting requirement? What is your viewpoint in about 30 seconds, Mr. Pradeep?
So see, in short term, you can say that we are putting high expenditure, like we are telling our people to do, our contractor to do LIDAR survey. We are telling them to bring automatic machines, and we are asking them to bring some tri-axial machines and all. In short term, it will look costly, but in the long term, they will be able to produce a better and economical design, and they will do it in a shorter time. So this is wrong to say that if you want to have good quality, then you have to spend more. In fact, we can achieve the quality with the proper management, with proper planning, with proper monitoring at the same cost. So it will not disturb the budget of any college.
Yeah. So if you have a clearly defined requirements, probably this will solve the problem of budget overruns, cost overruns, and probably rework and all of that. And thank you. I think that's one of the essence that we are trying to cover out of this particular session. So next question is to Mr. Ramanathan, maybe a last question. So how do you, ensure the entire process from design to construction is as smooth as possible with little cost overruns or delays? So how do you plan this, Mr. Ramanathan, being a consultant?
Yeah, I think one is the time delay which has been happening, which should be avoided. And with respect to your question of innovation, I was mentioning about build and construct, giving adequate time for planning and design. And I think that will help in a big way because in the recently introduced design and building mode, there are a lot of uncertainties and claims and loose ends and extension of times and things are happening. But if proper design has been made well in advance before tendering out, so that will cut short a lot of cost overruns. And the detailed design consultant can also have a detailed planning as well, the construction planning. And once the work is launched, we have a perfect design, complete design with the proper planning. And I believe that model will help cutting cost overruns and time overruns.
Okay. Thank you very much for all your viewpoint. I think it was very nicely covered. It is definitely an end-to-end integrated approach that needs to be seen to solve this problem. And Thank you once again for all the panelists. I request all of you to stay back and probably enjoy the remaining sessions that we have. In fact, it's going to be insightful sessions that we intend to have. And I would like to invite upon our next speaker, Mr. Iran Gary. Iran Gary is our worldwide solution expert for IBM Engineering Solutions. Iran, over to you for a session on how you can effectively manage the requirement specification through a systems engineering approach and manage complexity of requirement, compliance of requirements, and end-to-end traceability. Iran, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Dhananjaya. Can you hear me properly?
Yeah, loud and clear. Please go ahead.
Okay, so I will try to briefly. So far, we heard lots of interesting challenges and some strong background for the need of digitization initiatives. And now, this part that is left for this webinar, we discuss a solution, at least for some of the aspects around the requirements contracts that is provided by IBM and MicroGenesis. So I will discuss the IBM requirements management solution, which is this platform that has been mentioned, digital platform to have high precision management of requirements, collaboration around requirements, and so on. Again, just to summarize, this chart discusses the complexity that has been mentioned across all the panelists earlier, but obviously all these rail construction projects are multi-dimensional, have multi-dimensional aspects, starting from things like the rolling stock, at train station, but also many other things like ticketing, amenities, how we handle power, how we handle signaling, and so on and so forth. So as you can see here, this nice colorful picture illustrates all those dimensions, and each one of these dimensions needs to be properly handled with requirements, and all the requirements around each one of these dimensions that is probably going to be delivered by a specific contractor needs to be very carefully managed. So again, this is yet another summary of some of the challenges and that we heard earlier, and just to highlight a couple of them. And this came from actually a construction journal in India, for what are the reasons for delays and late deliveries and of construction projects. So just to highlight maybe a couple of points here, so that I think have been mentioned earlier by the panelists. One is delays in approvals and decision making. Everything is taking longer because each one of the parties is on a sort of separate, not on the same platform, and getting things approved and decision moving forward is taking much longer. And the other aspect I want to highlight is that typically when you don't have a good system to capture requirements, then you will find out errors as you start to actually work on actual construction projects. So you will find inconsistencies, and I don't have the time. We have a whole set of stories of large projects, not only in India. You don't have to feel bad, all over the world, also in Europe and in the US, that projects need to be replanned, and lots of significant rework, like changing tracks, changing rolling stock because the rolling stock did not match the tunnels or the tracks, and so on. Many stories around that. Has also been mentioned earlier, by Mr. Tiwari, is that these complex projects, the modern approach to take with respect to how to engineer them is called the system engineering approach. And the system engineering approach is an approach that takes a wider view across all the aspects of of the project. And typically the nature is to only look at the physical and the most low-hanging aspects of designs. For example, obviously you have to design the route for the tracks and the tunnels, but obviously you have to make sure you have the right rolling stock. But in order to make sure that everything in the end the project will be successful, you have to take a holistic approach that looks at the entire set of concerns and make sure that the entire set of concerns is met by the actual the actual delivery, which is delivered by the various contractors. And this is the essence of a system thinking or system engineering approach, that look at the entire set of objectives that you need. And you have to think about everything, not about things, what's going to happen in the train station, how you're going to sell tickets. Think about all kinds of risks and hazards and what things can go wrong. And this is the foundation of a system engineering approach. And requirements management is the most fundamental tool or approach that is facilitated by systems engineering or is used in systems engineering. And as you can see here on the right side, there's two aspects of it. Is one, you have to very precisely define your requirements. And this is also an incremental hierarchical process where you start from stakeholder needs and then you go down into contractor needs and so on. But, and this is called the V process, every requirements later on needs to be verified. So the V process talks about the left side and the right side, where the left side is the way we take a decomposition approach, starting from high-level requirements, going down to contractor requirements and then subcontractors and so on and so forth. And then we go back and we verify everything. And this is the way to verify that essentially the project will deliver its original goals. Just a typical scenario that the solution needs to meet, and here we see some typical personas, like the stakeholder. There's typically a consulting company that works with the stakeholder and defines detailed technical requirements, and then there is the package contractors. There will be multiple package contractors, and that could be also go multiple levels with subcontractors. And then there's typically a process where the stakeholder specifies some initial inputs, and then the contractors are reviewing and providing some feedback on the input, and then the consultants will provide some additional assumptions and enrich the requirements. And then there's a review taking place. Then after that, there's additional hazards that are being added. So there's a whole negotiation that is going back and forth between the stakeholder, that could be the government authority, and then a consulting company, and the various implementers or the package contractors. And that needs to be facilitated. The common practice, and this is not only in railways, today in engineering, and we see it even in more, high-tech style companies, even we still see it in automotive companies, is document-centric approaches. And document-centric approaches, most of the specifications are handled in traditional documents. You can think about Microsoft Office documents, Microsoft Word. There might or might not be a document management system, but still the granularity of what we are talking are complete documents. Documents describe various aspects. There's documents for the high-level requirements. There are documents that describe regulations, documents that we used to plan the project, documents to describe risks, and so on. And those documents are not don't have a digital granularity in the sense that they are not related to each other. And this is one of the main reasons why we can see inconsistencies across those different types of specifications, why the collaboration is slow, and why making changes to things is also complicated, and also the verification is much more complex. If we own everything, all the representation of the needs and specifications is done at the granularity of complete documents. So what is the IBM requirements engineering solution? It takes it to the next level forward. Rather than just doing a high-level document management, it digitized the documents into much more fine-grained records that where we take every aspect of the specification, every type of requirements is handled individually, managed individually as a digital object. That so taking the entire, if you think about an entire requirements document now, we digitize it into a repository that every single line in that document can be individually managed, can be individually, we can assign things like statuses, we can assign it to different contractors and so on and so forth. So there's a very fine-grained handling of this requirement specification document. The system itself, the way to look into this repository is using modern web clients that gives you the same experience like you're using, for example, you would be using Microsoft Word, but you are looking into the one shared repository where everyone looks at the same actual artifact, and this is, again, we call it a trusted source of truth. So we have one source of truth rather than many documents spread, which are spread around and can easily go out of sync. We can look at requirements using multiple views. So one is the traditional document-like view. So definitely you will see, my colleague Sunil will show you soon, that you can think about it and handle it like you would handle a document like a Microsoft Word document. But we can also present the information in many other ways, like more tabular views and graphical views, like you can see here on the side. And graphical views and tabular views are very good to trace, to understand the traceability and the relationship between the different levels of requirements. As I already mentioned, one of the key objectives is that the different stakeholders can collaborate. So they can all access the requirements. They can add comments or all kind of status attributes around the requirements, and it enables digital collaboration on this set of requirements. That said, I'm saying everybody can access, we can control the access. So if I have a contractor that is focusing, let's say, on the train station, he does not necessarily have to see all the requirements that go all the way, that talk about the electrification of the energy requirements of the system, because that's not his business. So we can definitely control access of every piece of our requirements and decide which party can access what portion of the requirements. But once we give them access, we can collaborate on those areas with that specific stakeholder or contractor. Obviously, we can produce documents. So still, we have many stakeholders that are less used to digital systems. So with the push of a button, we can look at this set of digital records that are managed in a digital system, and we can generate a more traditional document for different stakeholders, like a PDF document. Some stakeholders can also always see the information using a traditional document exchange. There is very high. It enables very high transparency and visibility to the status, as you can see here. Dashboarding and real-time dashboarding that has been discussed earlier. is automated from that system. So as we go and manage all the properties around these requirements, we get real-time status. So, for example, how many requirements are agreed, how many requirements have already been delivered to a particular contractor, or how many requirements have actually been implemented by the contractor. So this is all real-time data that any stakeholder, any relevant stakeholder can see on top of these dashboards. Just to position requirements management, because sometimes there's quite a few systems in this type of projects. So there are project management systems. Now, project management systems are not built to deliver to manage requirements. The project management systems, their goals is to schedule work and track work, but they are not about understanding the requirements and all the complexity of the relationship between the requirements. So requirements management systems are not a replacement for project management systems, and vice versa. The other thing that sometimes people get confused is systems that manage physical designs like building information models or BIM systems. Again, those systems focus on the realization of the different aspects of the design of the railway system, but they are different from the requirement system. So those, in an ideal scenario, those three systems are integrated together, and there are three pillars that are necessary for successful management of the project. Here you can see basically what it means to digitize a document. So on the left side, you see a traditional document. This is a Microsoft Word document, and on the right side, you see what happens once we import the document into this digital system. So it looks exactly the same. See that we get identifier for each one of the specific lines, and we can assign various attributes and so on, and we can manage each one of these records individually and track the status of each line individually by all the relevant stakeholders, because they all have access to that system, and they can have this kind of experience dealing with the system. So it looks like a document, but it's much more granular and gives you real-time control of each individual record. There are, in general, when we talk about what you need to do good requirements management, so there are several traits that are necessary. So things like that you probably saw in the picture, you have to be able to manage hierarchy of requirements. They need to be granular enough so we can address each one of which aspect of the requirements and verify it. So granularity is an important thing that I mentioned also earlier. The next important thing that I'll briefly go into some more detail is the aspect of traceability. Traceability is one of the core ideas in systems engineering and requirements management to make sure that we indeed can verify that the objective of the project will end up being delivered by the contractors by tracking all the traceability from the high-level objectives to actually what has been requested from each one of the contractors. Other things like change control, we can fully impose change control by different stakeholders that are creating requirements or modifying requirements. We can enforce things like reviews, formal reviews, and look at the history, have audit trails of who modified what, and get a complete track on the whole aspects of the requirements that change over the requirements. Other important things like attributes. So requirements are not only paragraphs in English. They can be much more structured. So one of the things we can assign a status attribute for a requirement. For example, has it been agreed or not being agreed? We can assign a priority to a requirement. Again, this is another attribute. So using attributes also adds lots of capability to how we collaborate on requirements and how we manage them. I mentioned the security and access control, so we can fully control who can access what portion of the requirements, and make sure that only the relevant stakeholders can access the requirements. Then I mentioned that the ability to produce automatically produce documents and real-time dashboards from the repository. Another aspect is the ability to have historical versioning of the requirements, see all the history of the evolution and create baselines, historical baselines of the requirements, so we can see what was the requirement when we started the project and what's the requirement when we reach a certain milestone of the project, and see the evolution of the requirements. And the last thing is to be able to use natural language processing to basically help going into the English language and identify problems at the English language level of the requirements, whether they are conflicting or whether they are badly written and so on. Again, coming back to traceability. So you can see here what it means to trace the requirements. So here we can see requirements at the let's say at the stakeholder level, and then those are translated to technical requirements by the consultant, and then those are translated to a specific contractor. And this is what it means to trace. Every original requirement is basically, you can see the relationship between the original requirements to the technical requirements that were derived from it to the actual requirements that have been handed to a specific contractor. And this is very important to track this traceability, because this is the only way that you can guarantee that all the requirements that will be delivered by all the contractors will ultimately satisfy the original objective of the project. Another way to look at the traceability is using a graphical view that you can see here on the bottom, the bottom right side. We can manage different levels of information, as I mentioned earlier. And what you can see here is how we can manage the information models inside this repository. So again, looking at the stakeholder requirements that will have certain properties, and then the system level, and then the project and scope technical requirements that are being handed to every stakeholder. So each one can be a digital artifact with its own relevant set of attributes that are needed to manage them. And we can, with the requirements management system, we can also create additional artifacts that things like specific to specify interfaces in the system, or things like validation action. What are the validation actions that are necessary to validate a specific set of requirements? And also very important, we can define digital artifacts that are focused around identifying risks and different controls of how we control the risks. So this is just some examples of what is contained in such a digital system. The last thing I'm going to talk about before I hand it to Sunil to give you a quick a demo is the ability to use advances in artificial intelligence and natural language understanding to actually score the quality of the requirement which is written in a natural language. So we do have a system that is based on natural language understanding that scores the requirement, like you can see here. And then if it doesn't get a good scoring, it will explain you what is the problem with the requirement. Now, this is based on the international guidelines for writing requirements, where the objective is that the requirements will not be ambiguous, that it will be easy to verify them, and so on. And again, the system will score your requirements. Another thing that is coming now is to look at the requirements and see that they are not in conflict. And this also requires a natural language understanding. And with that, I will now give the floor to Sunil, my colleague, to show you a little bit how the system actually looks like.
Okay, thank you very much, Iran, for covering in such a length about the system, which basically enables you to capture requirements, manage requirement specification of various types, establishing traceability, performing impact analysis, providing real-time dashboards, and also very interesting and important part of requirement quality, meaning automatic way of detecting whether your whatever requirements that are entered or captured are quality requirements, right? So that's an interesting topic. And thank you so much, Iran, for your wonderful presentation. Yeah, next I have Sunil. Sunil is our, SME for ATM engineering requirements management solution. Of course, he manages the entire engineering solution. So Sunil, I request you to do a quick demo just to get us a glimpse of how this product looked like or solution looked like in capturing requirements and managing various dashboards. Thank you. Over to you, Sunil.
We are already top of the hour. There's any, can you give me a time check on that? 10 minutes, 5 minutes?
Yeah, 10 minutes is fine.
Okay, thank you, Dhananjaya. So it was overwhelming to listen from Mr. Achal, Khare, the keynote speaker, entirely to the panelists, and again, the eminent speaker we have from IBM, that the core crux of what is happening in this arena is to move from the traditional to the modernization. And it is something key theme what high-speed railways and other eminent panelists have mentioned, that this is the core thing. We need to move from our traditional practice to digitalization, to collaborate in a centralized hub, so that every stakeholder, every contractor, every subcontractor see the single point of truth. So here the journey is very clear, that we cannot sustain the complexity with our traditional practice. We want to move to the modernization, and how beneficial it is. And you have heard from Mr. Achal Khare down to all the panelists mentioning about the nuances, what this particular digitalization means and what are the benefit they are coming into. So they have already started the journey, and there are still people who want to get into this bus and try to elaborate how they can also go into the winning stream. So I'm just going to narrate certain aspects to it. So what you're seeing on the front of the screen is there will be multiple documents. There will be documents from the scope aspect. There will be document from the design criteria, technical document, and general document, so on, and the compliance document. So traditionally, what you will be doing is you will be having the document in your centralized repository. In my case, I've just used a box. You will download the document, you make the changes to the information, and you have the document right over here, which has the information. So the thing is, when you're moving from your traditional to the digital world, we need to just leave out all the documentation and then have to revamp all the things from the scratch? No. So our solution helps you to also reuse the assets which you have already created. So we have a common repository. You downloaded the document inside, and you want to take the advantage of the documents what has been already been written by you to get inside the system. So what I'm showing you is, once the document get imported inside the system, I will just keep it side by side so that you can visualize it. The screen on your right is showing the document which is not in the system as of now, and you can see all the table of content, all the color coding, and everything is available here. Similarly, on your left hand side of the screen is the one which got imported, and you can see the information. Now, once the data get imported with our nice interface for importing the document inside the system, you have the screen now. So this is a web-based tool, as Iran mentioned. It is highly customizable, highly configurable, and you can basically collaborate in a single platform. And you can enhance the document by specifying some graphics in terms of the images, which is the text should be holding, so you can navigate to and forth. And it is the ease of navigation it brings in. It can add more terms to it, you can add more diagrams to it, and it's all available. Now, this is something which we have made sure that traditional people, when they are moving to digitalization, they see the same kind of information is flowing inside the system. Now, once the system is being got the data, now what we have to do is enhance this document to make more sense. In our vocabulary, people will start using the spreadsheet, adding more attributes to it to make a qualification why this requirement is needed and what is the importance of it. And sometimes you want to structure this information in terms of the hierarchy, level 1. So you want to easily scroll through the documentation and see what are the levels of documents you are having. So it is very easy for you to expand any section and also see the fullest information of it. So you just go back and see the full structure of it, you have the information. So it is just in minutes of clicks, you have the information handy, you can collaborate, you can see the corresponding section easily, you can navigate, and everything is there with you. Now let's make more sense out of this requirement. I will call these things now going forward in the digital world atomic requirement, because each requirement need to be tracked. As some of the panelists mentioned that if the requirement has to be delivered in such and such date, suppose 250 days, you have to deliver them, let it map it to the particular timeline and how we can manage the show. So adding more attributes to the existing requirement makes more sense. And you see it like a spreadsheet. What is the qualification of it? So in order to bifurcate from the manual, but the way that things have been organized, I have created certain attributes for you. And these attributes can be system created attributes or customized attributes. So let me add some more attribute to it as a cost factor. And you can add the cost factor attributes apart from the standard delivery ones. And you can move on to the section where we are talking about the station part of it. So let me again use the functionality of collapsing the information, directly going to the particular section of the information and seeing how the information is being categorized. So let me do once again. So let me collapse it to the level 1. So you have all the information being collated. And let's go to the session station module, and you can do expansion, and then you can see the costing factor will be also highlighted. Costing factors is also highlighted over here. So this is something people will be normally doing in day-to-day work. They see the document, they add more and more attributes. So you have spreadsheet view in front of you. And if you want to just kind of filter out all the requirements which are less than $200 and so on. So you can just give a quick filter to it by specifying the filter notations over here. So you can just filter this. Sorry, I just have to go back. Okay, so let me just filter out. Okay, I just clicked too many things. So just bear with me for a minute. So I'm just going back to the filter out. So what I'm trying to show you here is you can basically filter the information as you want it. So you can specify the attribute on which you want to filter the information. You can specify the value equal to or less than 200, so on and so forth. So it is the way you do in your traditional practice. All this information will be sorted out, and you can see all the information are residing in terms of less than 200 and equal to 200. What are the parameters are available in terms of costing? So it is very easy to basically manage it, create the attributes, and you have everything at your disposal. The next aspect which I want to show you here is in terms of when you have this document, it's just not one document, right? So let's go and see how we have organized this document structure. So here we have used a system engineering approach, or you can see a kind of hybrid of traditional and system engineering approach where we have bifurcated the folders, we have bifurcated the sections in terms of capturing the design requirement criteria documents, the general specification technical documents. All these are there in your fingertips. They are not just one document, there are a lot of documents. And there is also a nice way of tagging. If suppose somebody is working on a specific section of the document, they can tag it, and then it can filter out only those 3 modules in which you are working. Again, it is the ease in which you can collaborate, you can filter the data and focus on what you are working on. So let me go back to our document, and over here I will just want to show you one more view which is talking about the traceability aspect. Now you have having multiple documents, and we have general specification document which has been open, which has been connected to the design requirement criteria and also technical document. These are the shortcuts of the names of it. So you can see that there is an establishment of a linkages between the high level stakeholder requirement to the subsequent design and technical document. And these are the tick marks, which is actually validating that everything written between these texts, which are linked during the text was validated, everything is fine. For example, I just go ahead and alter the text and say that there are some changes been made. So as soon as I made the changes to the parent requirement text, and you can see that immediately you can see there are been notations which is saying that you need to revalidate the links between these 2 aspects. And you can see that across the document which have been linked, it is being showing to revalidate, which is something which everybody and the organization wants. If I'm making a high-level document changes, what are the impact is going to happen downstream? And it is just on a fingertips, you have all the information. You can either see this notation, or you want to see the entire tree of documents, how it has been linked. Again, there is a visual representation of the document is available for you in a graphical tree. If you keep on expanding, it will be keep on showing you the levels of document in which and level of granularity on each atomic level, how it has been linked. Which is something a beauty of this tool to give you in a very 360-degree angle of all the requirements which are connected. You can take this requirement linkages across hundreds of documents and it will trace every aspect of it, how it has been done. And once we have understood that, definitely there are people who will be saying that traceability is document is fine, but it can identify the gap or not. So as you can see, one more example over here, where we have established the traceability, and if you make the changes of the text, it made it question mark. And there are certain documents which are not being linked. At least when the users are capturing the information, they get the uphand information saying that if the text is not been linked, there is a gap, let me fix it. So these are the nuances which a tool can bring onto the table in order to give you a first-hand information, and everybody can collaborate that what is missing and what is not. And while I'm making the changes here, there was definitely an aspect of can I do with the version management of the system. So you saw how I imported the document, you saw how I captured the attributes to it, I made the changes to the links which are associated between different documents, then it is highlighted as a suspecting what we call it as, and then the gap analysis. Now I'm moving on to a stage where we want to basically make sure that this document are version control. So in that version control, so let's see, I have just created the changes over here. So let me create a new document for you in order to just check it if it has been captured, the changes are not. So I just made a dummy one over here, and keeping this base copy with the previous copy, let's see how the comparison of the two documents can be established. So I'm just specifying the previous and this one. The previous one is the one which has opened, and the previous one I'm just taking the one which I just created. So you can see here, this will be 3 levels of comparison of the document. It is in terms of properties. Have you added more attributes to it? No, not added. Have you made any changes to the folder structure? No, it has not changed the folder structure. Have you made any changes to the text? Yes, I made some changes to the text. So these are the changes which I just did for you in order to make the things to look better. So now you can see here, previously the text was like only fitting, and I made it as changing. So it has captured at 3 levels in terms of attributes, in terms of the structure of the document, folder structure where the various documents have been captured, and also finally the text in which we can see the difference. So all this information is very handy. If you go back in your Word document and start doing a word comparison, it will be a nightmare. Whereas here, everything has been captured. This can be documented and also can be provided to you on a formatted documentation per se. So let's go into the next aspect is, once we are performing all the actions, what is happening is, as Mr. Achal was saying, that there should be a common dashboard where everybody should see what are things that are happening around us, right? So we do have a collaboration platform where you can see where you can see all the information which are being captured at the common dashboard. Whatever actions I was performing, it was performing all the things at the back end. So let me just show you again the dashboard where I was working on. So I'm just moving on to the...
We have just another 1 minute. If you can just quickly show dashboard, and then we can take some questions.
Yes. So I'm just now moving on to the dashboard part of it. So this is the common dashboard, which is a web-based application, web-based browser, and you can see all the information in terms of the team who was making the changes to the system. We can also do the review of the requirements, is also available within the same system. You can see some of the nice queries which we created, that how many documents are related to the general specifications are listed, what are different types that particular document was comprising. It was having requirements, it was having surveys, it was having meeting, different types of it. You can also go ahead and see the information in terms of priority of the requirements. If I click, these are just not the static images. If you click on any of them, it will also specify the records in detail and if it is a medium priority and so on. So this dashboard gives you a common platform where people can see a 360-degree view of all the information which are pertaining to the information what the entire team was working on. For example, if I move ahead and see all the changes, all the grid sets, all the tasks which have been assigned to different people, you have all the information in a single dashboard available in front of you.
Okay.
So,
thank you, Sunil.
Just one last, finally not to least, if everything goes fine, you can also store the information in a document. So these documents can be also created by us, and I have stored already one document for you. So you can also have the documents which can be traceable document or module level documents is also available, can be auto-generated from the tool, and you have the information in one single repository.
Okay.
Thank you, Dhananjaya.
Yeah, thank you, Sunil, and thank you. I think in the less time that you had, you tried your level best to cover some of the important capability. If I have to summarize quickly, I think we had how do we manage requirement, but right from importing from your existing system. Second, we talked about how additional information can be added to the requirement. Third, we talked about linking of requirements. Fourth, we talk about various dashboard that instantly helps right from traceability, impact analysis, and even task management. For example, like Achal Khare was mentioning about project management, various tasks that are assigned to various stakeholders, and as and when they complete those tasks on site, how those dashboards get updated. I think it's a comprehensive system which covers the end-to-end cycle of a rail project development and implementation project. So I think it's a nice session, Sunil. Thank you very much for your session. Right, so we'll quickly move on to the last topic now, and so that's the Q&A. So I have a couple of questions. Maybe I'd request Sunil and Murli. We have one or two questions available here. Murli, there was one. So Sunil, there's one question. How to migrate data from DOS to DNG? You just need to tell in about 30 seconds what are the different options that are available.
So we do have option to import Word, Excel. We have Recip format. So you have various different formats. Almost we support around 15 different formats in importing the structure. Rich text is there, and then Excel are there.
The question here is DOS to DNG. Okay.
DOS to DNG, you can use it Recip format to import the information. We have advanced Recip format, which is classically built between the classic DOS and DNG. So
okay, thanks, Sunil. Okay, the next question, one of the important questions that we had is, can this platform cover all the stakeholders without copying the data? Can it act as a centralized repository covering all the stakeholders of the rail body is the question. So Sunil, what is your answer for this?
Yeah, so answer is yes, you can, to copy and paste all the time. It is centralizedly placed, and it is, as Iran mentioned, that we can make the data visible to the stakeholders who are responsible for that particular section. So stating that, you can centrally host all the documents, and various stakeholders, depending on the access right, they can view the information.
Wonderful. Okay. Now, Murli, we have one more question here. Is this platform available on cloud, or is this platform to be bought as an on-prem solution?
Yeah, so Dhananjaya, the platform is available both on cloud as well as on-prem. So it depends on the client's requirement. We can make it available on both models.
Thank you, Murli. And we have one more question. I think I will just take this, and rest of them we will answer it on the email. Naveen, if there is an interest in evaluating this product, what are the various options available? I mean, what are the help that they can get if they have to evaluate these platforms?
Yeah, so our team can be available for all technical discussion, even kind of an evaluation support also we can do. We call it as an assisted evaluation. Or if you have to do a sample POC for one of their sample project, that also there is something that we can offer to them. So they can connect to one of us, and we can definitely extend our help in that.
Okay, there are many other questions. Probably what we will do is we will take them offline because now we have already overshooted the time. And I'd like to thank each one of you who have made it to this particular event. And on my panel, a special panel, and great lecture from Mr. Khare. And I'd like to thank, I take this opportunity to thank Mr. Achal Khare and the rest of the panelists, plus also all the speakers that we had today and the audience who made themselves available for the session. And I'd like to especially thank the ITP for organizing such a wonderful event for all of us. And thank you, all of you. And we will reach out to all of you with all the answers for some of the questions. There are still about 13 questions that I need to answer. We will respond to all those questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thank you so much.